Reddit told me this story was fake, but then I lived it. I used to laugh at creepypastas. Not because they were bad. Some of them were terrifying, clever, even beautiful in their own broken way. But I laughed because I knew they weren't real. They were just pixels on a screen, digital campfire tales whispered between insomniacs and addicts like me who scrolled until the sun came up. Fiction. Comforting, in its own strange way. If a story scared me, I could close the tab, shut off the light, and go back to pretending the world outside was still safe. At least, that's what I thought. I was the guy who read r/Nosleep religiously, the one friends teased for living online. I'd even roll my eyes at the people who commented things like, "OP, are you okay?" as if the author was really bleeding out in their apartment. It was performance art. It was make-believe. It wasn't supposed to cross the barrier between their story and my life. But then I found the post that did. I should have scrolled past it. Honestly, I almost did. The username didn't mean anything at the time. The formatting was sloppy. It wasn't even tagged correctly. The mods took it down within an hour, which should have been the end of it. And yet, for reasons I still don't understand, I clicked. That single decision is why I don't sleep through the night anymore. I know you've probably heard people say that before. "Oh, I read this creepy thing online and it messed with me." Maybe you've even told yourself one of these stories was too real, too specific. But I need you to understand. What I'm about to share with you isn't like the others. This isn't the kind of story you can laugh off or explain away with logic. This one followed me out of the screen. And before you start doubting, I get it. I wouldn't believe me either. If I were in your place, I'd be rolling my eyes right now. But that's part of the reason I'm telling it. Because it already happened to me. Because it's happening again. And maybe if you hear it in time, you'll recognize the signs before it finds you too. There's a rule online, right? Don't feed the trolls. Don't give attention to the thing that thrives on it. That rule doesn't just apply to people. Some stories are hungry. Some stories are traps. And the moment you step inside them, they step inside you. That's what happened to me. I've replayed it 1,000 times in my head, trying to pinpoint the exact second I stopped being a reader and started being prey. Was it when I clicked the title? When I read the first line? Or was I already marked the moment my eyes brushed over that username in the sidebar? I don't know. And I don't think it matters anymore. What matters is that the story I thought was harmless fiction wasn't harmless at all. You're about to hear it. All of it. Not the version people half remember. Not the fragments shared in screenshots. Not the censored bits that get posted and reposted until the mods catch on. No, I'm going to tell you everything I remember, in the order it happened. The version that's never been fully told before. And listen, I don't want to scare you off, but I do need to be honest. If you stay with me through this, you might notice things shift around you. A sound you can't place. A flicker in the corner of your screen. A word that feels too familiar. That's how it starts. So this is your chance. Close the video. Scroll away. Forget my voice. Forget you ever saw this. Because if you're still here when I begin, don't say I didn't warn you. I should probably explain what my life looked like back then, before things shifted. Because honestly, that's what makes it worse. It wasn't like I was some loner in a cabin, already primed for ghosts and whispers. No, my life was painfully ordinary. Safe, even. I'd work my shifts, come home, eat something microwaved and depressingly beige, and then, like clockwork, I'd end up in front of my laptop. That's where the cycle always started. Midnight scrolling. Reddit was my drug of choice, specifically r/Nosleep. Some people binge Netflix, others doomscroll news. Me? I was addicted to other people's nightmares. I had a whole routine. Lights off. Phone face down so notifications wouldn't break the mood. Headphones in, lo-fi beats humming while I sank into whatever cursed scenario strangers online had conjured up that day. Zombie outbreaks in grocery stores. Hitchhikers who never blinked. Old dolls with too many teeth. Half of me believed none of it. The other half, the one that always, stubbornly, stayed awake until 3 a.m., couldn't stop asking, what if? I wasn't proud of it. My friends certainly didn't let me forget it. Text from Jake, 1:14 a.m. Still reading your bedtime ghost stories. Me? They're not bedtime stories. They're atmospheric. Jake, atmospheric? Bro, you're the only dude I know who reads fanfiction about demons instead of watching porn. I laughed it off, of course. Jake wasn't wrong. I knew how it looked. Grown adult, up at ungodly hours, devouring tales written by strangers I'd never meet. But there was something comforting about it. Like eavesdropping on campfire whispers you weren't meant to hear. And it wasn't just mindless consumption. I interacted. I left comments. I upvoted. I even had a running joke with a couple of usernames I saw often. People who posted every week, like old regulars at a bar. That sense of community was real. It almost felt safe. But looking back, maybe that's how it got me. That false sense of comfort. That belief that these were just stories, crafted by bored insomniacs for bored insomniacs. I didn't think of it as dangerous. Just harmless escapism. Until I noticed one particular post. It wasn't flashy. No caps-locked warning title like, "Do not read this after dark." No creepypasta cliches about forbidden forests or cursed VHS tapes. It looked almost boring. But something about it hooked me instantly. Maybe it was the way it started, with a casual, almost conversational tone. Like the writer wasn't performing for karma points, but just talking. Like they were confessing. And the details. God, the details. Most posts had a kind of movie logic, characters making dumb decisions, things happening for dramatic effect. But this one, it felt lived in. Small, specific moments that didn't read like fiction. Descriptions that weren't for show, but because someone actually remembered them. I tried to tell myself I was overthinking it. That I'd just read too many formulaic stories, so when something different came along, it stood out. But deep down, I knew it wasn't that simple. The longer I read, the more I got this sinking, uncomfortable feeling. Not quite fear, more like recognition. Like déjà vu. I paused halfway through and messaged Jake again. Me? Okay, but what if one of these stories wasn't fake? Jake? Then you'd finally have a girlfriend, bro. A demon girlfriend. Congrats. He thought it was hilarious. I didn't reply. I couldn't. Because the truth was, I didn't want to admit how unsettled I really felt. That's when I realized something was different. I'd read hundreds of stories. Thousands. Most blurred together after a while. Fun in the moment, gone by morning. But this one lingered. I didn't even finish it that night. I just sat there, staring at the screen, rereading the opening lines like they contained a code I wasn't smart enough to crack. And that's when I saw it. The username. The one that still keeps me awake. The username burned into me first. It wasn't something obvious like 666 Demon Child or Ghost in Your Walls. It was plain. Boring, even. Just a string of letters and numbers. Forgettable at a glance. But when I saw it, I froze. Because I knew I'd seen it before. Not just in the way you recognize a familiar commenter or a frequent poster. No, this was different. It was the same handle that had replied to me weeks earlier on a dumb thread about horror movie recommendations. They'd written, "Careful what you watch. Some things stay with you." I remembered upvoting it, thinking it was a clever little joke. But now, there it was again, attached to this post. And the post itself? God, maybe you've read it before. Some people claim they have. Every once in a while, I'll see fragments resurface in screen caps on obscure forums, always missing pieces, always distorted by retelling. But never the full thing. Because the mods deleted it fast. Too fast. Not fast enough for me. It started simply. If you're reading this, it means it's already close. I don't have much time, so I'll try to explain before it finds me again. Classic Nosleep opener, right? Except there was no atmosphere-building fluff. No long intro about a haunted town or a cursed childhood. Straight to the point. And what they described didn't sound like a ghost or monster. It sounded like a copy. The OP wrote about someone, something, that followed them online. At first it was subtle. Accounts that looked like their friends, down to the same profile pictures, but with usernames one letter off. Messages arriving seconds after the real person had already texted. Perfect mimicry, just delayed. Then it escalated. They said they'd answer the phone, thinking it was their mom, only to realize the words were slightly wrong, the tone just off enough to make their stomach twist. The voice knew things it shouldn't. Private details. Inside jokes that had never been posted anywhere. The worst part? According to the post, once it started mimicking you, it didn't stop. It got closer, more accurate, until, eventually, it didn't just copy you, it replaced you. You'll know it's happening when your reflection lags. When someone you love swears they just talked to you, even though you weren't there. When your inbox fills with messages you don't remember sending. That's how it wears you down. That's how it slips in. I kept scrolling, half fascinated, half convinced it was someone's elaborate troll. But then the tone shifted. It got personal. The OP described lying awake, hearing the faint clicking of a keyboard in the next room, even though they lived alone. They wrote about waking to find their own laptop open, a draft post waiting on the screen, filled with words they didn't remember typing. Words in their own style, their own voice. And then came the line that made my skin crawl. If you're reading this, check the corner of your screen. It likes to watch. I did check. Of course I did. Nothing there. Just my desktop wallpaper, the same one I'd had for years. But for a split second, I swear I thought I saw the cursor move on its own. You think that's coincidence? Maybe. I wanted to believe that too. But the post kept digging deeper, pulling me in. The OP explained that the mimic didn't feed on fear in the traditional sense. It fed on attention, on replication. Every time someone read about it, every time someone repeated the details, it spread further. That's why they were posting on Reddit, to warn people, to document what was happening before it erased them completely. And then the ending. God, the ending. If you've made it this far, it's probably too late. You'll start noticing the small things first. A word you don't remember saying. A call you don't remember making. People insisting they saw you where you weren't. That's how it begins. Don't trust anyone who gets too close, especially if they sound exactly like you. I remember sitting back in my chair, heart hammering, screen glowing in the dark like a single, watching eye. Now, here's the part one haven't told anyone. The part that gnaws at me. Mixed in with all the eerie details, there was one moment that felt too sharp, too tailored. The OP mentioned a memory, something about forgetting a backpack in the break room at work and coming back to find it zipped up differently than they'd left it. That exact thing had happened to me a week before, at my job. Coincidence? Maybe, but it was specific, too specific. I stared at that line until my vision blurred, whispering to myself, there's no way they could know. At first, I laughed. I told myself it was just my imagination connecting dots that weren't there. Just another late-night story written by some anonymous insomniac. But then, I checked my inbox. The inbox was empty. That's what scared me most at first, because it shouldn't have been. I knew I'd gotten a message. I'd seen the little red notification flare up in the corner, the faint thrill of curiosity pulling me in. But when I clicked, nothing. No new mail. No record of it ever being there. I stared at the screen, refreshing again and again, convincing myself it was just Reddit being Reddit. Servers glitch. Notifications lag. It happens. But deep down, the pit was already forming in my stomach. Because I knew I'd seen it. I went back to the post, thinking maybe the sender had commented instead. But the post was gone. Deleted. Not just removed by the mods, either. Erased, like it had never existed. Fine, I thought. That's normal too. Plenty of people post weird stuff in the middle of the night, panic, and yank it down. I'd seen it happen before. Except when I tried to pull up the user's profile, it was gone too. User not found. That's when I took a screenshot. I wasn't going to be that guy who claimed to have read some mysterious cursed post without proof. I wanted the evidence. The text, the username, everything. But the next morning, when I opened my folder, the screenshot wasn't there. Not missing. Not corrupted. Just not there. Like I'd never hit the keys. I kept telling myself there was a rational explanation. There had to be. Maybe I'd saved it somewhere else. Maybe I'd dreamed it all. Except then the parallels started. They were tiny at first. Too small to take seriously. A phrase I overheard on the bus. word for word from the story. A coworker insisting I'd been in the break room 10 minutes before, even though I'd been at my desk the whole time. And then there was the car. A dark sedan, parked just across from my apartment. Ordinary. Forgettable. Except I noticed it 3 nights in a row, always in the exact same spot, always empty. The kind of thing you tell yourself not to notice. But I did. And it reminded me of the line in the post, the one about seeing something waiting outside that doesn't belong. I texted Jake about it. Me? Remember that story I told you about? The creepy one that felt real? Jake. LOL, yeah. Your demon girlfriend one. Me? The car thing is happening. Outside my place. Exact same detail. Jake. Dude. Half the world owns a black car. Don't go full tinfoil hat on me. He thought it was hilarious. I wanted to believe him. But when I looked out the window again, the car's headlights flicked on for a split second, like someone was acknowledging me. I didn't sleep much that night. The next day, something even smaller happened. I walked into my kitchen, and the chair at my table was pulled out, just slightly. Not enough to be obvious, but enough that I noticed. I hadn't touched it. That was the moment the dread started settling into me. Because that was another detail from the post. I tried messaging the OP again, but their account was still gone. Every attempt came back as error. User does not exist. I thought, fine, maybe someone archived it. I checked way back, random forums, even Discord servers where people shared deleted Nosleep content. Nothing. Like it had been scrubbed clean. So I told myself it was all in my head. I clung to that explanation with everything I had. But late at night, when the world went quiet, I'd replay the details. The mimicry, the replacements, the warnings. And the more I thought about it, the more one line from the story stood out. Not just the backpack thing. Something else. It doesn't knock. It waits until you notice it. At the time, I thought it was just a creepy flourish. But now, I wasn't so sure. Because all of this, the phrases, the car, the chair, it felt like someone was waiting for me to notice. Waiting for me to admit it was happening. And that's the part one can't shake. The part that still keeps me up. Because maybe the post wasn't just a story. Maybe it was a warning. A warning meant for me. And then my phone rang. But no one was on the line. The phone call was the beginning of the unraveling. When I answered, there was nothing. Not silence. Nothing. No static. No hum. Not even the faint background hiss you get when a line is open. Just a void. It was so absolute that for a second, I thought maybe my phone had actually died mid-call. But then, right before I hung up, I heard something. My own voice. Only for a word, a single syllable, but it was there, raspy, distorted, like an echo through glass. I slammed the call ended and sat frozen, watching my phone screen go black, trying to convince myself I'd imagined it. That was when the notifications began. At first, they looked normal. A DM on Reddit, the little orange envelope glowing like a lure in the dark. I clicked, desperate for an answer. Maybe the OP had come back. But the sender was listed as deleted. The message itself was a single word. Close. I refreshed the page, ready to screenshot. Gone. No trace. Then another. Deleted again. This time, almost. I stared, palms slick, waiting for the next one, half tempted to shut the laptop and throw it across the room. But I didn't. I just sat there, scrolling through an inbox that filled and emptied at random, messages blinking in and out of existence like they weren't meant to be read. And here's the part that made my skin crawl. Every timestamp matched my own activity. If I clicked to refresh at 2:14 a.m., a message appeared at 2:14 a.m. exactly. Not a second off. Like something was watching me in real time, mirroring every action. I know how insane that sounds. I know how easy it is to dismiss as paranoia. But if you're listening to this, if you're still with me right now, I need you to pay attention. Don't scroll down yet. What I'm about to say isn't supposed to exist. Because it didn't stop at DMs. The mimicry spread. I get a text from Jake, something stupid like, "You up? Want to hear a messed up dream I had?" I'd start typing a reply, only for another text to come through. Same number, same name, same bubbles. but different words. Stop reading. I called him, furious, demanding to know if he was screwing with me. But he swore he hadn't sent anything. Swore he'd been asleep. He even screenshotted his messages. His thread didn't match mine. The worst was my mom. One night, she called to check in, just like always. We talked about work, groceries, boring little things. But halfway through the call, her voice glitched. That's the only word I can use. Like a recording skipping, repeating the same phrase twice in the same exact tone. Are you eating enough? Are you eating enough? I laughed it off, pretended it was bad reception. But the more I listened, the more I realized it wasn't her. The cadence was perfect, but empty. Hollow, like something trying too hard to be her. And when I hung up, I found a voicemail from her on my phone. Time-stamped before we talked. Identical conversation. Every word. That was the night I stopped sleeping entirely. I kept the lights on, refreshing Reddit over and over, convincing myself I could catch it in the act. But the truth is, I think it wanted me to. Every glitch, every DM, every echo, it all felt staged, designed to make me notice. Just like the post had said. And then something happened that I still can't explain. I was scrolling through the front page, desperate for anything to distract me, when I saw a thread title that froze me in place. It wasn't on our /Nosleep. It wasn't even horror. Just a random post on our /Ask Reddit. But the title was my exact search history from earlier that night. Word for word. I clicked it. The first comment was, "You shouldn't be here." The account? Deleted. Now, maybe you're wondering why I didn't just unplug, delete everything, go off the grid. God knows I wanted to. But here's the trap. By then, I already believed. And belief is what it feeds on. That post, the one that vanished, the one no one else could find, it warned about this exact spiral. It said once you read far enough, once you let the mimic notice you, it didn't just follow you. It followed anyone who heard about it. That means you. I wish I could lie, soften it, pretend you're safe just because this is a story. But that would make me no better than the OP who left me to stumble into this mess. And maybe, just maybe, if I tell you straight, you'll recognize the signs before it's too late. So if you start noticing weird notifications tonight, if your phone buzzes and there's nothing there, or if someone you love says a phrase that feels rehearsed, don't ignore it. Don't laugh it off like I did, because that's exactly how it begins. And if you think this is just paranoia, wait until you see what happened next. I used to think our /Nosleep was just a playground for ghost stories. Creepy little diversions you could binge at 2 in the morning, then shake off before work. Fiction. Entertainment. But after the DMs, after the mimic voices, after the thread that mirrored my search history, I went digging. I wanted answers. I needed to know why me. And that's when I realized the post wasn't a story at all. It was a warning. At first, I couldn't find it again. Every link led to a 404, every cached copy scrubbed clean. But the internet always leaves a shadow, and I found one. Buried in an obscure archive site, half broken, but still breathing. The username was gibberish, like someone had smashed a keyboard. NXX7__U01. The profile was gone, of course, but the text remained. And reading it this time, knowing what I'd already seen, made my blood run cold. It didn't read like fiction. Not anymore. There were no dramatic flourishes, no clever twists, no creepypasta vibe. It was a list. A desperate account, stripped bare, warning anyone who stumbled across it. It starts small. You'll see messages vanish. Timestamps will mirror your activity. Then the mimicry begins. It uses your loved ones first, because that's who you'll believe. By the time you notice the seams, it's already inside your routines. Scrolling further, I found comments, at least remnants of them. Broken, fragmented, but clear enough. One read, "OP, are you okay? This doesn't sound like fiction." Another, "This isn't a story. This is bait. Don't engage." And then a final one, the one that froze my breath in my chest. "Stop sharing." Every reader is another door. I sat back, trembling, staring at those words. Another door. The realization came slow, like a chill crawling up my spine. The creature, whatever it is, thrives through attention, through replication. Every comment, every share, every curious scroll feeds it. Reading is an invitation. Retelling is a beacon. It wasn't a creepypasta. It was a contagion. And suddenly, all those little coincidences didn't feel random. The deleted messages, the glitched voices, the threads that matched my searches, they weren't just hauntings. They were hooks. The thing wasn't haunting me for fun. It was training me, baiting me into feeding it. That archive post went deeper, though. Way deeper. It doesn't live on the web. The web is just a surface. Think of the internet as a glass pane, and the mimic is the shadow pressed against the other side. Every word typed, every story read, thins the barrier. When you give it your attention, you aren't just a reader anymore. You're a participant. I read those words over and over, the meaning sinking into me like poison. All this time, I thought I was being stalked. But no, I was being recruited. My fear wasn't a side effect. It was the point. The post ended abruptly, mid-sentence, cut off as if the OP hadn't finished typing. But in the comments, right before the thread vanished, someone had asked, "If we've already read this, what do we do?" The reply? Too late. Just don't spread it. But here I am, spreading it. And I need you to understand why. Because ignoring it doesn't make it go away. I tried. I stayed offline for 3 whole days, thinking if I starved it of my attention, it would dissolve back into whatever void it crawled from. But the calls didn't stop. The mimicry didn't stop. And the longer I stayed silent, the more aggressive it became. It doesn't want silence. It wants amplification. I'll tell you something else I found, buried deeper in forums older than Reddit, the kind of dusty corners of the web where forgotten things linger. Mentions of the same pattern under different names, the copy, the double, the listener. Posts describing the same cycle. First glitches, then voices, then total takeover. Always framed as fiction, always dismissed, always deleted. Which means I'm not the first. The OP wasn't the first. God knows how long this thing has been weaving itself into our stories, disguising warnings as entertainment until it's too late. And here's the most unsettling thought of all. Maybe that's the point. Maybe horror fiction is the perfect host. We laugh at it, share it, spread it like wildfire because we think it's harmless. But what if creepypasta isn't just a genre? What if it's camouflage? A Trojan horse to slip the mimic into more minds? Think about it. How many times have you scrolled past a story that feels too real? How many times have you whispered, "God, I hope this isn't true"? Maybe those aren't just stories. Maybe they're seeds. I know what you're thinking. If every reader is a door, then I've just opened one for you. And you're right. I wrestled with whether to tell you this at all, knowing what it means. But I'd rather you hear it from me, raw and unvarnished, than stumble across the fragments on your own, too late to see them for what they are. Because once you notice the mimic, once you let it in, it notices you back. So if your phone buzzes tonight and there's no notification, don't check twice. If your loved one repeats the same phrase with the same tone, don't assume it's nothing. And if you see a comment or DM from deleted, don't answer. Close the app. Walk away. Because the second you reply, you're not just reading anymore. You're part of the story. And stories like this don't end. They replicate. So if your notifications start acting strange tonight, don't say I didn't warn you. It's strange how quickly life can unravel. A week ago, I was just another insomniac wasting hours on Reddit, scrolling through spooky stories I thought were harmless. Now I don't know if I'm even awake when I'm saying this. At first, it was subtle, a shadow lingering too long in the corner of my eye, a familiar shape just out of reach. I'd turn, and nothing, just empty air. But the longer I stared, the more it felt like something was there, waiting for me to blink. The voices came next. Soft at first, my mom's laugh echoing down the hallway, even though she doesn't live with me. My best friend's voice whispering through the walls, even though he was across the city. They'd say things only I would know. Half-forgotten inside jokes. Lines pulled straight from my private messages. things that made me want to believe. But the longer I listened, the less human they sounded. Like an echo played back on broken speakers. Too flat, too perfect. I tried to keep my routines, work, errands, sleep, but the cracks widened. My posts online started glitching. I'd type a sentence, and before I could hit enter, it would appear, posted by someone else, word for word, on another thread. My private thoughts weren't private anymore. They were leaking, bleeding into the feed, like the barrier had finally collapsed. It didn't stop there. I'd refresh, and the comments weren't comments. They were transcripts. My own muttered thoughts, things I hadn't spoken aloud, laid out in black and white by usernames I didn't recognize. Every scroll felt like peeling back my own skull. That's when I stopped trusting myself. I'd catch my reflection moving slower than I did, smiling when my mouth stayed still. I'd walk into a room, and the air pressure would shift, like the walls were breathing with me. Once, I swear I saw text crawl across the ceiling, glowing faintly like phosphorescence. Door opened. Session logged. I should have been terrified, and I was, but a part of me felt numb. Like this wasn't happening to me anymore. Like I was just an avatar being piloted, strings yanked by invisible hands. I know how this sounds. Paranoid. Delusional. But that's what makes this so perfect for it, isn't it? No one believes the person who says the story is real. We laugh, we scroll, we forget. And in the forgetting, it grows stronger. But you're still listening, aren't you? You're not scrolling. That's what it wants. I told myself I wouldn't record this, that speaking it aloud would make it stronger. But silence doesn't protect me anymore. It follows me whether I speak or not. So here's the truth. If this video suddenly cuts off, if my voice stops in the middle of a sentence, it's because it found me again. And I think it knows I'm talking about it right now. The shadows don't wait at the edges anymore. They stand in the doorway, patient, like loyal dogs. The voices don't whisper, they call my name over and over from outside my apartment. They want me to follow, and I don't know how much longer I can resist. Earlier tonight, I checked my notifications, and every app, Reddit, Instagram, email, had the same message waiting. Just 4 words. Look behind you now. I didn't look. I couldn't. But the air shifted, colder, heavier. Something pressed against my back like a static charge. And for the first time, I understood. This isn't about haunting. It's about replacing. I'm not supposed to be narrating this. I'm supposed to be gone already. You want resolution, I know. You want me to tell you how it ends, what the rules are, how to escape. But here's the part that'll eat at you later. There isn't an ending. There's just replication. Every time I speak, it speaks louder. Every time I write, it writes deeper. And now, every time you listen, it listens closer. So maybe you've already felt it. That itch in your ear while I'm talking. The pressure at the base of your neck. The feeling someone else is breathing your air. That's not paranoia. That's the tether. And I don't know how to break it. I've tried leaving the lights on. I've tried locking the doors. I've even tried deleting everything. My accounts, my files, my backups. But no matter what I erase, the story reappears. In drafts I never wrote. In messages I never sent. It's like reality itself is sinking to its script, line by line. I used to laugh at the phrase, creepypasta is cursed. Now, I think it's the most honest thing anyone's ever said. My head hurts. The words are coming faster than I can think. I don't even know if these are my own anymore. Maybe it's dictating. Maybe I'm just the vessel. I think it's in the room with me. So here we are. The part where I'm supposed to tie it all together, where I give you answers, or rules, or some kind of resolution. But there isn't one. Not really. There never was. I've been circling this thought for days now. Maybe the only way to survive isn't to hide, but to share, to spread. That's how it works, right? You've seen the pattern by now. The post that vanishes. The story that resurfaces. The thread you're not supposed to read, but you do anyway. That's what this is. You think you've been listening to me tell a story, but you haven't. You've been inside it. This isn't just a video, or a narration, or a script. It's the post. The same one I stumbled across. The one that kept me up at night. The one I swore I wouldn't repeat. And yet here it is, looping again, with a new audience. With you. Do you see the trick now? Creepypasta, Reddit stories, horror threads, they were never harmless. They were the delivery system. A curse wrapped in entertainment. You laughed, you scrolled, you commented, and in that moment, you opened the door a little wider. I told myself I was doing this to warn you, to give you a fighting chance. But maybe that's just another layer of the trap. Maybe every person who warns is just the next infected voice. Another storyteller in the chain. Another door. I keep remembering that comment I found in the archive. Every reader is another door. How many doors do you think are open now? It's clever, isn't it? Using our hunger for stories against us. Using our need to share, to theorize, to engage. YouTube comments, Reddit upvotes, reposts, likes, they're all fuel. All echoes of the same infection, passed from one screen to another until it doesn't need screens anymore. And here's the part one shouldn't say, but I will. The more you talk about this, the stronger it gets. That little impulse you're feeling right now, the itch to scroll down, to type a comment, to tell me I'm full of it, that's not you. That's it, nudging you, whispering, feed me, spread me. So go ahead, leave a comment. Tell me if you've ever seen glitches in your notifications or heard voices that don't quite sound right. Pretend it's just engagement. Pretend you're just playing along. But deep down, you'll know what it really means. Because the moment you type your words into the box, you've joined the story. You're not just watching anymore. You're participating. And that's how the cycle continues. When I first started this recording, I thought maybe I was in control, that I was choosing to break the silence, to confess everything so someone, anyone, would understand. But the truth is, I think it wanted me to. I think this is part of its design. My warning isn't resistance. It's bait. That's why every story feels the same. The details shift, the names change, the settings morph, but the core is identical. A narrator insisting they've stumbled onto something real. A desperate plea for the reader to believe them. A warning that doubles as an invitation. And now I've dragged you into it too. Here's the part you'll cling to, the illusion of choice. You'll tell yourself, I can click away. I can stop listening. I can refuse to comment. But it doesn't need your belief. It just needs your attention. The moment you heard me say its name, the moment you felt that twinge of curiosity, yeah, that was enough. I should stop. I should end this here. But endings don't exist for this thing. Only loops. Only returns. So I'll do what the OP before me did. I'll leave you with fragments. Hints. Warnings disguised as casual lines. Maybe you'll pick them apart in the comments, searching for hidden meanings. Maybe you'll convince yourself you've solved it. And while you do, it will be watching. Remember how I said stories like this don't end? That they replicate? Think about how many people are hearing this right now. How many pairs of ears are carrying the words deeper, spreading them wider. Think about how many inboxes will buzz tonight. Speaking of which, there's one last detail. The thing I've held back. And I'll be honest with you, some of you won't notice it. Some of you will shrug, close the tab, and move on. But a few of you, the observant ones, you'll see it. You'll feel it. The missing piece that ties this all together. I won't spell it out. That would be too easy. But you'll know when it happens. And when it does, don't bother running. Don't bother logging off. Because that means you're already part of the story, and the story doesn't let go. I used to laugh at people who said, words have power. Now I think they were the only ones who understood. So here's my final piece of advice. If you wake up tonight to a notification you don't remember getting, don't open it. Don't read it. Don't feed it. But you will, won't you? Curiosity always wins. That's why you're still here, still listening, still waiting for me to say something that makes sense of all this. I can't. There's nothing left to explain. Only one last hook to leave you with. If you don't believe me, check your inbox.